On September 21st, we're going to have a solar eclipse in Virgo, and on August 23rd, we are going to have a new moon in Virgo. Now, today, my friends, I would like to briefly talk about both of these transits because they are so closely related in stuff we need to start understanding about the Virgo part of our chart, that whole sign house, theme of life, that place in your birth chart, whatever Virgo occupies, that is going to be greatly influenced under a microscope and very much asking us about things that need to be birthed, started, initiated. This is very, very powerful Virgo energy, my friends. And as we know, new moons are seeding points. They are activations of birthings and beginnings. Solar eclipses are massive new moons, which have deeper symbolic and karmic significance to them. Now, I will be making an entire other new moon in Virgo video for August 23rd in a couple of days from now. But this video's intention, or the intention behind today's video, is really about preparing us and helping us understand a little bit more about the importance of the link of this upcoming new moon and that solar eclipse happening at the end of September. Now, I know there's also a Pisces lunar eclipse, and yes, that is also very important, but the Virgo part of our life and the Virgo energy of the world, I think we're not prepared for what this actually can be. And I think for us individuals, this is actually some of the most needed energy, possibly, of the entire zodiacal story right now. Because if anything needs to be like grounded into reality, if anything needs to become more earth sign in nature, you know what I mean? If we need to be more grounded with our minds, and if we need to get focused and strategic and stuff, I think that's what Virgo is all about. Okay, Virgo wants us to understand systems. Virgo wants us to understand how to be discerning and to use our analytical minds to get things done and to organize what we need to organize. Now, what's crazy about this Virgo cycle, we're having two moons in Virgo, two new moons in Virgo. Did I just stumble over my words? I don't know. The new moon happening August 23rd is happening at 0 degrees. Okay, some would call that the critical degree. This is the birth degree of Virgo. Okay, literally, it is the moment where a planet crosses over into a new zodiac sign, and the purest form of the Virgo archetype is embodied by that sign, by that planet, or by that transit, whatever you want to call it. And that, to me, is a very important thing to note when discussing the beginning of this eclipse season, because eclipse season doesn't really start until the first eclipse activates. So the moment the Pisces lunar eclipse activates, begins eclipse season, because then after that waning phase towards the new moon in Virgo that will happen at the end of September, which brings us to our second eclipse. Then after the second eclipse, until we get to our next massive lunation cycle, then that's really when eclipse season kind of concludes itself. But I would say that eclipse season really starts at this new moon. Okay, and the reason for this is because we're going to have another quote unquote new moon in Virgo that's tied to whatever the new moon in August is also about, in a generalized theme, in a Virgo-esque theme, in that part of our birth chart. Because we have to look at all of the houses and zodiac signs in our birth chart, if you're using whole sign houses, as yes, one massive theme of life. Okay, but as you know, I work with the Decans, and there is subdivisions and inner worlds within the zodiac. And I think that where these transits fall, or how this new moon happening in August will fall in the first decan, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, and how this solar eclipse will be happening in that third decan, okay? And how they're both happening at the very beginning and the very ending of the zodiac sign, Okay, think about this. 0-degree new moon, August 23rd. 29-degree solar eclipse, September 21st. We have the critical degree, the birth degree at 0-degree, where we have the purest form of the expression of that zodiac sign. So when a planet enters a new zodiac sign, it is at that 0-degree, that critical birthing degree, in which it officially absorbs. It's like it jumps into the pool of whatever Virgo is, whatever that zodiac sign is. And that planet just gets transformed and dosed completely by the medicine of what that zodiac sign's all about, whether for positive or negative. And then when we have anaretic degree influences, when we have an anaretic degree transit, when a planet finally gets to that 29th degree, or when we have a full moon there or a new moon there, this is a crisis degree. This is the final testing point. Okay, when I say crisis of completion is really what I should have said, because we're talking about the accumulated karma of the entire transit being faced and being dealt with and being manifested maybe, or just felt intuitively within the body or within the consciousness of you or whatever's going on in the world potentially. That final degree, that anaretic degree, is like this supercharged moment of maybe even reflection on everything that happened during the entire course of a transit in a zodiac sign. And then there's this feeling of readiness to move on. Okay, and that's also something really important to note. This feeling of completion, this feeling of, okay, it's time to go. It's time to move on. Now, this conversation, guys, is going to probably take more than just this little simple video today. And I'm really not going to make this video that long. I'm really going to try. I mean, famous last words, right? I can yap on forever. But I just really want to start driving it home to you that this new moon coming August 23rd is very important, because it shows us that there is a massive beginning happening in the Virgo part of our life, and how that is happening literally at the most earliest degree that you can possibly have a transit occur, the 0-degree mark, and how we're going to have a massive solar eclipse that happens at the anaretic degree at 29 degrees, and how this is a bookend, birthing, seeding, initiation into something very powerful, very new. And I think, yes, we have to look to the aspects that these new moons will be, talking to other planets, of course, but just generally speaking, the intention of today, and maybe on the new moon video that I make in a few days, which I'll get a little bit more deeper and more specific with the new moon and what exactly is going on transit wise with the new moon coming up, because yes, the new moon is making aspects to, I think, I'm pretty sure Uranus and stuff like that. So it is going to be making some squares, I believe. Yes, some squares to Uranus, which is going to be, quite intense. But, and that actually might be something to note as far as what we can expect manifest into the eclipse season furthermore. But I will talk more about the square specifically in a couple of days from now. But I really want you guys to start thinking about this in your, what is Virgo for you? Okay, what did Mars do for you recently this summer? Mars entered Virgo in, I believe it was June, my God, what was it? June 18th, something like that, June 17th. And that was after many, many, many months of Mars being in Cancer and Leo. So when Mars got into Virgo, that was the first kind of massive activation that we had in Virgo since the lunar eclipse in Virgo that we had over the winter. Okay, and what's interesting about that lunar eclipse, and not to get too ahead of myself, is that that lunar eclipse fell in the third decan of Virgo, and the solar eclipse that we're going to have on September 21st is also falling in that last third decan of Virgo. And I think that on a mundane level, involving world events, involving things that include wealth and money, and just things that include just a ton of resources, I think that is also going to be it's going to play into this story. The eclipse story, I think, has a lot to do with finance and money and, again, wealth, whether people are making wealth or losing wealth. I think this is, again, a lot of people are talking about financial crisis here, recession stuff. I mean, I know a lot of us are hurting in many, many ways. And I think a lot of very powerful political figures are just cashing in. I mean, when the American administration was like crashing the stock market and fluctuating this and that and just manipulating everything over the late winter into the spring, I mean, there was so many wealth transfers, happening that I think the Virgo part of our lives might, or not the Virgo energy in the collective might actually reveal more of that data to us. And I think that could be very exposing for a lot of people. And so anyway, there's so much to talk about involving what this eclipse season is going to bring us, my friends. And I want to just share with you, a solar eclipse, let's just break down like what an eclipse is real quick. Solar eclipses are intensified new moons, major new beginnings. Lunar eclipses are intensified full moons, culminations, and releases. Okay. So when we talk about the lunar nodes, which is where the moon and the sun need to be near for eclipses to form, these are tied to destiny points. These are tied to collective shifts, so big shifts within collective stuff, and karmic themes. Now, Virgo is a mutable earth sign, excuse me. And Virgo is all about harvest, refinement, analysis, discernment, service, craft, and systems. Okay, so we have to take that all into account when we look at what Virgo is and how this could be playing into effect in these in the Virgo part of our life and in the world stage, on the world stage as well. When I hear the word systems, I hear the way the world is run. I hear structure. I hear financial systems. I hear government. This is what stuff in my brain starts to ring true to me. And I think there's going to be a lot of shifts within government. I think there's going to be a lot of talk about wealth and money. And also, when we talk more and more about artificial intelligence, we are definitely discussing how work is done. All we hear these days is how AI is going to replace so many jobs, so many this, so much of this. There's going to be a whole new way of working involving the technological age we live in. So this Virgo eclipse and this Virgo energy that is happening, I would not be surprised on the world stage if we start to hear more about the realness of how structures can be dealt with and designed, or again, what is going to be this birthing moment involving structures, involving service and crafts and systems. Okay. Now, like I said earlier, this activation is so rare. This back-to-back activation of new moon August 23rd, solar eclipse September 21st, 0 degree for the new moon coming up, 29 degree for the solar eclipse happening at the end of September. And to me, this is like, think about this, guys. On a macro level, right? Think about this as a complete redefinition of the Virgo ruled house. The Virgo house in your birth chart. A complete redefinition. This is a complete remodel, okay? We're talking about a new moon activating at the very beginning, that birth degree. Remember, we were just talking about that the purest form of the Virgo archetype is activated whenever there's a transit happening at that 0 degree. And then we are talking about the ending of that, the 29 degree, which is that anaretic degree, okay? Which is, again, the completion. This is that final testing point, that readiness to move on. So we're having a complete bookend moment with birthings and initiations. So for me, this is like so big, guys. And why don't we just talk about the Decans real quick too? Because honestly, I don't want to talk much more. I really just want to get you thinking about this, okay? And how important this bookend is, because this is really where the meat and potatoes of destiny and karmic understanding. And I would argue this could be again, I keep saying in every video that like all the transits happening in the sky, this is the most important part of your birth chart. These activations are the most important. Guys, I think we need to understand that we are going through a complete astrological makeover. Like everybody individually on the world stage. There is so much happening. And I want to talk about the Decans though, because maybe this will clarify some things and make, the magical system of the Decans and the tarot card associations involved with those Decans. Maybe that will paint a picture, a little bit of what I'm trying to translate to you. But before I do that, I would just like to say, if you are enjoying my content, if you've seen any of my other videos, if you are enjoying this video, I would love if you could consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video, leaving comments. All that stuff really helps the channel's growth, guys. And yeah, if you'd like to learn anything else about me, check out my description box. You can book readings with me. And yeah, I do have some availability left kind of in August. I think I have like one reading left in August available. And then I have a lot going on that you can book for in September. Yeah, guys. So, the first decan of Virgo, okay, this is ruled by the sun. And we are dealing with the Eight of Pentacles tarot card, okay? And we talked about this decan heavily over the summer, in June, rather, because when Mars entered Virgo, we talked about this. And what that Eight of Pentacles really was all about. Now, the imagery of the Eight of Pentacles, as many of us know, is a craftsman perfecting his art, focused on his mastery, dedicated to his skill. The sun's rulership here adds creative vitality, clarity, and the will to shape reality. So the brightness and the luminosity of the sun meeting the focus and dedicated ethic of creating, of focusing on something and to building and to taking strategic actions and intentional choice towards something going on in the Virgo part of our life. And I kept saying that all summer. Mars is trying to come in and create very strategic actions and bringing you passion and assertiveness and that fire for you to take more analytical approaches to certain things in your life, and how that is very much needed after everything Mars did all winter long with its retrograde cycle in both Cancer and Leo. Okay, so now we're having a new moon happen here. So again, what does this mean? Birthings, seeding points, intuitive understandings that something must begin. Maybe something needs to end, of course, but an intuitive understanding that something new needs to be worked on, built. There needs to be a focused, dedicated understanding about what's going on in that Virgo part of your life. Okay, there could be a lot of enlightenments and liberating moments to come in that Virgo part of your life. I mean, I know for me, the 11th house is Virgo. And for me, the 11th house, of course, is socialization, friends, groups, alliances. There's an aspect of legacy, the collective. Social media is now a big signification of the 11th house. And I've been doing nothing but work very, very hard to continue to produce videos here for my YouTube channel. I mean, social media is a major part of my life. This channel has grown tremendously over the last 8 months, and I couldn't be more blessed. I'm working on a lot of courses and classes for 2026. I'm doing a lot of the work behind the scenes now for all of that. And that 11th house is where that Eight of Pentacles has been very activated in my life. Dedicated, focused on my mastery, getting better at what I do, researching, taking strategic action on how I want to produce content, how do I want to show up for you, and having a lot of deep, and my midheaven is also in the 11th house. So we're definitely talking about a complete, massive activation of my legacy, if you will. And God willing, I can be a professional astrologer and teacher and continue to grow in respect, I guess, from so many of my peers and colleagues and students, and to just continue doing what I'm meant to be doing on this planet, which is showing up for you, teaching astrology, teaching esoteric matters, teaching self-development, and helping people transform through the esoteric, magical themes, things involving all of that. And this new moon, again, I think after going through this entire summer, essentially, and looking at the work that I've done and focus and really observing what I've accomplished thus far, I feel in my bones that there is like, holy crap, Joe, you really are living your truth. You really are working hard, and you really are dedicating yourself to this stuff, and that Eight of Pentacles, I want you to reflect on as well. And I want you to look at the symbolism behind this. New patterns of work and service embodied, being seated. So again, the newness, that's what this new moon is offering. The newness of something. Okay, the birthing. So is there something new you need to start doing within that Virgo part of your life? Like for me, I reflect on stuff and I go, okay, like I know what I'm doing. I kind of understand the Virgo stuff. I know what Mars was getting me to, putting fire under my ass to get things done and to work hard. But there's also so much new stuff that I'm like trying to incorporate into this. Like I feel like I'm blending a lot of innovative ways of teaching, for example. And to me, I'm also just very much focused on how can I be fresh and new, and how can I really embody this new version of me, right? So again, new patterns of service, heightened focus on self-improvement is also very important. So how are we improving what we're doing in that Virgo part of our life? The daily rhythms and skill culmination, or cultivation rather, this is really important. So again, this daily in and out approach, the analytics and the mental focus that needs to be put into the Virgo part of your life is huge. Okay. And all of this is going to be birthed. Okay. We're going to feel this newness kick online. Now, the solar eclipse happening at the end of September, this is happening at that anaretic degree, right? Third decan. This is ruled by Mercury. So this decan has decanic dignity. Okay. So Mercury rules the decan, the third decan, right? But Mercury rules Virgo as a whole. So any transit that finds itself in that decan is automatically going to be extra Mercury in nature, extra Virgo in nature maybe, but extra Mercury in nature, okay? So this is where we're discussing the Ten of Pentacles in the tarot. So the Ten of Pentacles imagery is about legacy, long-term success, building a lasting foundation for people you love, family, community, collective stuff, So it's a very big card for the conclusion of the Pentacles suit. And when we deal with Mercury influencing this, both Virgo in the sign of Virgo, but also in the decan of Virgo, this suggests intellectual mastery, wisdom sharing, and intergenerational exchange. So this is where we are looking at the legacy of our life. This is where we look at the Virgo part of our life and we go, okay, what theme of life is this? What is going on here? What am I doing here that can have a long-lasting effect? What am I doing here that can build a legacy for myself? What am I doing in this part of my life? What do I need to begin in this part of my life? What do I need to recognize in myself that needs to be initiated? What do I need to have an awakening of that really makes me feel in my bones, wow, I think this is the road I have to go down, or this is what I must do? And again, this is kind of where the new moon in Virgo 0 degree comes in, but also this solar eclipse kind of gives us that more broad view, that bird's eye view, that long-term view. When people say like, what is your 10-year goal? Like this is, or your 10-year vision of yourself. Like, I know that's a ridiculous question sometimes to ask people, but like, I think this is kind of one of those new moons where we're actually going to be feeling into the future, and we're going to have that feeling initiate something really big within us. And I think that's really, really important for us to understand, because whatever we're doing in the Virgo part of our life, I think is legacy building. This is long-term stuff. And I think getting our minds around things that can help us get there is very, very important. So I think when we talk about the symbolism of this stuff, this new moon at the end of August, this solar eclipse at the end of September, this is a graduation moment. We began at 0 degree, which was attested for resilience and long-term viability. So again, the test for resilience, the focus and the dedicated practice and work and meditation we need to do. And then how that becomes a long-term vision, okay? Where the craftsman becomes the master. Think about that. Where you become masterful at whatever it is that you are trying to achieve and unfold in that part of your life. Okay. So I hope that I'm making sense here, my friends. And I don't really want to talk much further, but the apprenticeship phase becomes the master phase. And that's really kind of the main message, I think, for all of this today, guys. Now, on the world stage, you know, I feel we can have major restructuring of facts versus illusion, because something else I didn't mention, maybe I'll mention it real quick, is that this solar eclipse is going directly opposite Saturn in Pisces. When Saturn gets back into Pisces at 28 degrees retrograde, this solar eclipse will go directly opposite of that. And that is going to be a shattering of illusion. So again, Saturn is going to work with this opposition to the solar eclipse, and that is going to supercharge and activate something really, really big politically, I believe. I believe things involving facts and data and analysis and systems and structures are going to be probably, the illusions will be shattered. And I think there'll be a thorough understanding of systems, a thorough understanding of what the hell is maybe happening behind the scenes. I think, again, wealth gained and lost is huge for this Virgo stuff, especially because we're dealing with the 10 of Pentacles, and we could talk about wealth, okay? The accumulation of everything that somebody has built. And on the world stage, that can look like so many different things. You know, so I think that's really all I have to say, my friends. I mean, I hope that this made sense today. And I hope you can stick around for my upcoming new moon in Virgo video, because I will talk maybe a little bit more about this, but I just wanted to give you a tease on what we can start expecting for the Virgo energy in the world and also in our life, and how this birthing 0 degree and culminating 29 degree stuff is huge. And we're going to really need to get clear on what we are doing in our life, what we are building in that Virgo part of our life. What is that theme trying to speak to us? What do we need to evolve there? What is your soul asking from you in that Virgo part of your life, you know? Because this is a complete redefinition of the Virgo house topic, a complete makeover. And this is when we birth something completely and utterly new that we've never experienced before. So I hope this video was helpful, my friends. I hope you can stick around for future videos if you are new and stay to the end. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll catch you in the next one.